Hello, Sportsverse world. Welcome into our live Sportsverse studio in Barcelona. You can't see much behind us because the night has fallen here in the Catalan capital, but Jamie Easton and Ray Hudson are in the house. Hi, guys.
Hello.
How are you?
First thing of all, I prefer your chair because you can just turn around from one side to the other and we're just here. Ray, what do you think?
Static.
Oh,
goodness.
Talk.
Well, let's get right into it because we have some heated topics to discuss. Real Sociedad took on Barcelona this weekend, and both Real Madrid and Barcelona dropped points. So let's get straight into it, guys. And throughout the show, we'll be reading your comments. So if I look down on my phone, I'm not ignoring you guys. I'm just trying to connect with the people.
You're ignoring us.
Yeah, exactly. So, Jamie, break it down. Real Sociedad, Barcelona. 2-2. That one finished.
It was interesting to see how Barcelona, again, didn't have a good start of a game, and that's becoming something too usual for Valverde's side this season. I think it's worrying for Barca fans to see the lines with too much distance between them, with the forwards kilometers away from the midfielders, and the same happening with the defensive line. That's something to correct to face Real Madrid. It was interesting to see how they could turn around the situation and put themselves in the front. But again, Real Sociedad is one of the teams that plays better football, and I just fell in love with that stadium and that team again, right?
Absolutely. They played some impressive stuff, and you know, each time Barcelona took the lead, it showed with La Real what a spirit they have in their team as well. There's a real belief, and it's always echoed throughout that stadium for a long time. But you're right, Jamie, it's not exactly a Jekyll and Hyde Barcelona, but it's certainly a Barcelona that takes on a different complexion when they take to the road. And Gabby, I don't know what the reasoning is behind this, but there's something that's distinctly obvious once Barcelona leave Camp Nou. They become a different, there's a different light around each of them individually. There's a different connection between them. There seems to be a better spirit in them when they play in front of their home fans. And it's not like it's night and day, but there's something that definitely ekes out of this team. So something serious for Valverde to have to correct now, because it's getting late in the day.
Well, absolutely. And that was the last match before they have to play Real Madrid. And let's look at maybe some individual performances. It was a rather quiet night for Lionel Messi, a man that obviously Barcelona depend on week in and week out.
Yeah, he gave the assist to Suarez, and we saw that connection. But I think that Griezmann did a better performance in general than Leo Messi. And that is the good news for Barcelona fans, seeing how he has finally adapted. It took a bit long, probably too long for some fans, but in the end we saw that Barcelona has a new trident and they start associating between themselves. But obviously this season we saw Barcelona depending too much in too many games on Leo Messi and Ter Stegen, and it wasn't the night for Messi and it wasn't the night for Ter Stegen.
Yeah, Ter Stegen's been showing one or two little, I don't want to say they've been off-colour performances, but it's like a piano concerto where there's one or two little notes that are just not quite there. You know, there's murmurings around the crowd in the audience that wasn't right. And Ter Stegen has showed that a couple of times in key moments, and sometimes he's got away with it. But it may be just the kind of reminder that his defenders need, that he actually does need protecting a lot more. And of course for Ter Stegen, who's still one of the best in the world, unquestionably. But defensively, Barcelona's got to sharpen up.
Speaking of those defenders, Jordi Alba back from injury. Also, not his best night.
No, not his best night at all. I think it's normal for a player that has been 4 or 5 weeks out with a muscular injury. First time he plays again. It wasn't his best performance, but I have no doubts that Valverde will choose him, will pick him to play El Clasico.
Sure, but when he's not in the team, Gabby, there's certainly something that ekes out of the team. And all the positives that he does bring for all his lapses. It's an early game back for him. He's a big addition to the Barcelona. Something very tangible goes out of Barcelona when Jordi Alba isn't there. And when he's at his best, he really accents the team in a very profound way for me.
Because we talk about the connection with Leo Messi and Luis Suarez, but there's not a connection in the world when they associate like Jordi Alba and Leo Messi.
Right. Absolutely. Ryan Moran bringing up a great talking point from the match. That penalty and lack of VAR being used correctly was a major disappointment. He, of course, referring to the PK penalty that shoulda, coulda, woulda. And once again, we're talking about VAR.
Do you think it was a penalty?
Well, I think if you call the one on Busquets, you have to call the one on PK.
I think you have to just take a look at that penalty. I mean, there's a referee in a room in Madrid, watching all the images, and he has to say to the referee, there's huge controversy here. I know how the VAR works, but let's be honest. If we want fans to get on board of this project, we have to be serious, and the referee has to analyze these plays on the pitch, like they do in other competitions.
I think the biggest thing is just consistency. Week in and week out, we see there's no consistency with the decisions that VAR is making.
It all comes down to the human as well, that translation of the image. And you know, this is not going to go away. This needs to be refined. There's been worldwide reaction to this in every country with their different variations of VAR. VAR, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing.
Mohamed Bassam with a little bit of a hot take. Playing Alba in the Clasico would be a mistake. And now, Jamie, we spoke about this earlier today, and I asked, do you think he'll start in the Clasico? Do you think we could see a Rakitic in midfield in the Clasico? A man who Valverde has now started in 5 straight matches. And you think that it's going to be copy-paste from this weekend?
I think it's going to be copy-paste. One, because Arthur is not fit, and he won't be fit for El Clasico, so that means De Jong, Busquets and Rakitic will be the starters. It will be a huge surprise if those are not the midfielders for Barcelona. And I believe that Jordi Alba will play because of the importance he has on the team, because he's a veteran and knows how to play these games. I don't see Junior Firpo playing this game at all. Maybe instead we could see Sergio Roberto and Semedo being the fullbacks, which we've seen with Valverde, but I definitely see Jordi Alba on the left, and I want to see who plays on the right.
And Pavon Gray saying Valverde better start Vidal in the Clasico. And some people think that Rakitic slows down the game a bit, that Vidal brings in a little bit of intensity, but both of you shaking your heads. You don't want to see him.
Because there's no definitive answer. I think, you know, the writer has a valid point. Certainly when King Arthur comes off of the bench, he brings his Excalibur. I'm mixing the metaphors, but that's what happens.
We get the point.
Right, he got the point. That was very funny. Very funny, Gab. But he brings a different element and attitude and a different spontaneity, not just in his football, but in his aggression. But he's a wonderful player in himself. I still prefer seeing Vidal coming in off the bench in various episodes, whether they're losing the game, whether the game's tied, whether they're winning. He brings in a different emotion with his football. I'm not talking about his pure emotion as a performer, but I'm talking about his manner in which he plays the game. He alters things, but I think it's better to have that sort of, you know, shotgun waiting to come in to tidy things up.
So you know what? You have something in common with Valverde. Valverde has always said, I don't see Vidal as a starter. I see him like a player that could start a revolution for a game.
There you go.
And that's why he starts from the bench.
And it's sad for Vidal, because when he has had the opportunities, he's really not nailed the position down. You see, well, he's unescapably going to be starting game in, game out. He hasn't done that yet, but he hasn't really disappointed. He's been a good sign, and I love his desire, Gabby. He wants to play. He always wants to play, and he's not happy in this role.
He's upset.
Coming in. Yeah, exactly. And that's a good thing, where you have good players keeping good players out, as long as the good players that start play better than Vidal when he gets in, and that hasn't quite been the case sometimes. So it's up in the air.
We'll see what Ernesto Valverde decides. Up in the hair. Well, Mo Sadi, switching gears for us here in our comment section. Real Madrid are finally showing the intensity and will I was talking about in the start of the season. And now switch gears. Real Madrid also dropping points at Mestalla. You were at that match.
Yeah.
What a finish by Los Blancos.
What a start as well by Valencia. Valencia came out of the traps like greyhounds and played wonderful football. Later on, in the second half. It was Real Madrid in the first half were absolutely wonderfully in rhythm. There was a great balance. The wing backs were pushing what seemed to be suicidally high, leaving a lot of space behind them, but it really didn't matter. They were in full control. Second half, not quite so much. A big change by the boys with the bats on their shirts, and turned the game around.
It's very difficult to play in a stadium like Mestalla. You felt the atmosphere there. It makes it even more special when they face Barcelona and Real Madrid. But something we cannot deny is the evolution Real Madrid has experienced since the beginning of the season. I remember when they were in the United States facing the derby against Atletico, they lost 7-3. Everybody was saying, it will be another season we will throw into the rubbish. And suddenly this team has improved.
Absolutely.
With Zidane making his good work, making good decisions, rotating his players, making feel everybody of them important again. And in Barcelona, and you read that today, they are starting to be afraid of what they call here La Flor de Zidane, which is Zidane is lucky, and he was lucky. Oh, that's what they say in Barcelona, when he won his league, scoring goals in the last minutes, and here they're starting to get a little bit afraid because yesterday he gained another point in the last minute.
It was that vintage Real Madrid that you could never rule them out until the absolute dying final minutes, and that's exactly what we saw from Courtois and Benzema.
Courtois made some incredible saves before his heroics with his header. He kept Real Madrid in the game with some big key saves. It could have been 2-0 a couple of times, but really right towards the end of the game, moments before Real Madrid pulled that one back, Courtois made a fantastic save. So he proved himself to be a real leader, and he needed this, because let's be honest, when he came in from Atletico Madrid, he had a lot of bridges to rebuild there. Then his season, it was an okay sort of season last year, but not so much, and then he got off to a bad start this year. So how much do Real Madrid fans fall in love with him? Well, they've got a good reason to, because he was the man of the match for Real Madrid, unquestionably, and it was some good performance for Real Madrid. It's a tremendous tug-of-war game, very intense. Dani Parejo for Valencia led them beautifully through the fires, and the stadium was pulsating. The raucousness of a very partisan Valencia crowd wouldn't undo Real Madrid. So going into the Clasico, Gabby, we've got two teams. One for me that is being fueled by this fire of, like Jamie says, this renewed faith that no matter when we're down and out, we can still come back. And that part of it is so important. I tell you what, Jamie, I don't know what the lineup Zidane is going to throw out, because he's got some options and they're not easy ones to pick.
Well, we did get one answer in that he decided not to start with Casemiro, which to me was a big one, because all along he had kind of been insinuating that every match is just as important as the next. And so I was really under the impression that he would have started Casemiro, who was on 4 yellow cards, against Valencia, and he opted not to. Did that surprise you also?
It surprised me, but I have to be honest, when I saw Casemiro playing in the Champions League, a game where Madrid had nothing at stake, I thought, he's resting him in Valencia.
Great point.
He's resting him in Valencia because he has 4 yellow cards. Any single mistake in a match where players just are with an extra revolution inside there, you can see a yellow card and you miss El Clasico. And Casemiro is somebody irreplaceable right now with Real Madrid.
The player that really stood out for me, and I've got to make a quick mention of this, because when you go to the stadiums and you see the game in a different dimension than through the television, and you see the spatial areas that you can sit back in your seat in the stadium and look at all of the different options that are going on and the different variations of selections that players have. The player that really impressed me, and I was looking to read up about them in all the fantastic
newspapers
here, and all of these, and I was looking for the results of them with the player marks, was Toni Kroos. I thought he had a wonderfully influential game, Jamie, right from the start, and the rhythm that he set his team, the linking up of it, he was pivotal, and I don't think I've ever been more impressed. And it wasn't his most stellar game, but he was dangerous in possession, with shooting the ball, possessing the ball, keeping the rhythm, and linking the team up.
But you know what? When Toni Kroos' performances went down, is when Real Madrid was struggling.
That's right.
Now Real Madrid has improved because, amongst other things, Toni Kroos has improved his level. So he's quite important for Zidane. But he has a real debate, and returning and going back to what you have said before, who will start in El Clasico for Real Madrid. The midfield is a huge issue for Zidane.
And one of my little favourites, Isco, didn't have such a good game.
No, he really did not. Gerito Amaya actually asked that question. He said, who do we think is going to start in El Clasico? And with Casemiro coming into that midfield, who who is going to hit the bench, you would have to think it would be Luka Modric because you can't take out Kroos.
But
and Fede Valverde has been
maybe the
so
foreplay.
The formation.
Maybe the 4 midfielders play.
Yes.
4-4-2, having Benzema and another one, Gareth Bale probably, and playing with Casemiro, Fede Valverde maybe on the right, Toni Kroos, Luka Modric.
Yeah.
I think 4 midfielders is a real option for Zidane.
And we haven't even talked about the fact that Marcelo is injured, which is always a big loss for Real Madrid, especially in a match like El Clasico.
Is that huge for Real Madrid having Mendy right now?
Who has been great, but there's no one quite like Marcelo,
Marcelo.
But defensively speaking, sometimes...
the hell with defense, Jimmy. The hell with defense.
Well, there you have it, Ray Hudson.
No, but it's true. I mean, I think this is a game where they would love to have his invention, his poise on the ball. You know, the service from any of the other players from out wide, unless it's from Toni Kroos, has been less than impeccable with Marcelo in there, the variation from him. But listen, he's got some wonderful options.
Right.
I agree, though, Jimmy. I think it should be
Barcelona.
4-4-2. Go on.
Yeah, no, but there's a guy called Leo Messi there.
Yeah.
So if Marcelo just starts running and attacking and he just leaves the back discovered, that's a perfect scenario for Leo Messi.
Especially at Camp Nou, I agree. And, you know, this is a situation that Valencia didn't exploit early on in the first half, but they did start to gnaw away at it a little bit in the second. But wonderful cat and mouse operations going on all over for the Clasico. And, you know, I don't know which way this one will go. I want to call it a draw, but I don't do draws, so we'll save that till later on.
Des Norris with a little comment for Ray Hudson saying, admit it, Ray, Keylor Navas would not have made that header.
Oh, really? Well, let me tell you, Keylor is so good, he probably would have carried a trampoline out in knowing exactly when he needed it, and Keylor would have still got there. But he's right. I mean, that's not exactly what they assigned him for, but it's a wonderful option. And let's be honest, it was a roll of the dice. It was last-ditch saloon, and it came off. Again, I've got to give full credit to Toni Kroos. By the way, the header from Courtois wasn't just a goalkeeper's header. He got up with style, like, you know, a wonderful right, like an old Ayala type of header to rub salt into the wounds of Valencia fans. The great Ayala, of course. But it was a great header.
Not so great by Garay afterwards. Huh?
No, bad clearance, and then setting up Benzema for a very cool, calculated finish.
Now, before we move on to the Champions League draw, we do want to give you guys a little bit of a security update ahead of that Clasico. We're about 48 hours away, and Jamie, we do have an update on how Barcelona will arrive to the stadium and the security measures.
We do, because normally when Barcelona plays at home, the players arrive to the stadium with their own cars, like, for example, 2 hours before the kickoff. Yeah, nobody has a Ferrari, I think. Ibrahimovic had a Ferrari, I think, and something that Pep Guardiola didn't like very much. So right now, what Barcelona has said is, we will go to a hotel, which is the same hotel where Real Madrid will be, which is 700 meters away from the Camp Nou. So they will meet there, they will have lunch together, and the 2 buses will go to the Camp Nou to ease the security issues. So it will be the first time this season that Barcelona just meets all together before a game they play at the Camp Nou, because there are real concerns. Well,
that's a concern in more ways than one. I mean, the mental approach to these games is always pivotal. It just is. So it depends on what type of pre-match meal they have. If it's better be good salmon, I'll tell you that, because they'll all be complaining.
All right, we're going to move on to the Champions League draw now. And out of Real Madrid and Barcelona, who do you think made out best in this one? Real Madrid facing Manchester City, and Napoli going to face Barcelona.
Do you know what? It seems like a tough draw for Real Madrid, but I'll tell you something. It wasn't the worst rival for Real Madrid, and Real Madrid is definitely the worst rival for Manchester City. I think that who has nightmares today is Pep Guardiola, returning to the Bernabeu again, and he has something to do in the Champions League this season, because how the Premier League is, the only option for Manchester City is to win the Champions League, or to do something important in the Champions League. And this is a really tough path right now for the citizens. For Barcelona, they wanted to avoid the English teams, so once Chelsea and Tottenham are out, Napoli is not that bad option for Barcelona, but they have to go to Italy. Everybody remembers what happened
Correct.
in Rome.
That's
And when Barcelona plays away, they offer that image that we don't know what they will offer. And Napoli, it's a huge question mark with the crisis they have there right now. But we don't know how they will be in February.
Yeah,
so we'll see.
But now under Gattuso, who we all know knows how to get his team fired up.
Yeah.
Right? What do you make of it?
I think, you know, the games that jump out is the Real Madrid-Manchester City game for sure. This is a game where, you know, I think the English snobs, the people who will say, Real Madrid aren't what they used to be and all of that.
Well, City aren't what they used to be.
We'll see when Newcastle United actually get a draw against Manchester City. It's not as if they've got anything right. But, I mean, this is a different competition altogether. And Guardiola will have his team. They've got a wonderful Aladdin's Cave. As Butragueño said in this morning's paper, the English know how to spend money. They know how to get rich quick. And I thought that was a real good stab at the English clubs. But they have proved last year that they are for real, and this is a quest for the elusive golden sheep for Manchester City, the golden fleece. They've got to get it this year. I mean, under Guardiola especially, this has got to be a team where they've learned from their lessons of the past exits, and now they come out against the team that has been the most glorious team in Champions League football in Real Madrid. It won't be easy. They'll have Hazard back. They'll have Bale back, firing at top level.
And on the flip side, City could have a Laporte back, and I mean, this is also taking place in 2 months. So Guardiola could solve a lot of the issues that they're currently having.
Yeah, defensively, they've got to show up some big holes at the back, Manchester City. And we saw that Real Madrid are in a wonderful moment now. They're filling their sails with confidence. And I don't think he's even played his best team yet. You know, this is a team, Real Madrid, that's been coming together in bits and pieces. And the formula is there. The prestige is there. The knowledge of what they are is all there, but for Zidane to pick the right ones is what he's learning. And I think by the time this game comes around, he'll learn some big lessons. The Atletico Madrid game as well is another huge match.
Let's move on over to that. Atleti taking on the reigning champs Liverpool, the team that I think pretty much everyone wanted to avoid, and poor Diego Simeone now has that coming up.
There's drama in Madrid for the other team of the capital of Spain, because they're struggling in La Liga, something they didn't expect at the beginning of the season. This was an important season for them after what we saw in the pre-season. They renewed the squad, the veterans just left, new youngsters arrived, everybody agreeing that they have signed really good players.
Right.
Joao Felix, the best youngster probably playing for them, and suddenly in La Liga they are 8 points below Barcelona, Real Madrid. Now I think it's 6, but with one game played more than the others. And now with the Champions League, which was something that they always have options because of how they just decide to play. It's never an easy game against Atletico Madrid, no matter the rival.
Right.
And suddenly they face the best team in Europe.
Sure, and you know, two different managers with two different approaches to the game. That's the intrigue in this game. You know, the Simeone against Klopp, that whole different strategy and approach to the game. The first game being in Atletico, you can imagine Liverpool fancying themselves and coming out and opening up against Atletico Madrid, who have been off tune until Simeone finds out his best formula. He feels as if he's got the pieces. I do too. Joao Felix still finding his way, but a talent and a half, and that stage will be set for just the type of game that, hey, listen, there's on both sides of the pitch, Gabby, there's some fabulous players, but this is going to be tricky for Liverpool to come in there, I think, in that first game. But you can't imagine Atletico Madrid rolling the scoreline up, but tough on the road as well. So Atletico has got to get this result first leg.
And there's never going to be a corner kick like we saw last season against a team like Atletico Madrid. That won't happen.
Especially Simeone, yeah.
But we do have to touch on the other La Liga team, Valencia taking on Atalanta.
Hey.
I lost the comment here in the comment section, but someone predicting Atalanta to win it all this year in the Champions League.
I'm a big fan of La Dia. I've been banging on the drum since last year. Gasparini's been doing a wonderful job at Atletico, but this is going to be a tough task. And certainly Valencia have shown that they have got it in them to get the result. First one in Italy at the San Siro it'll be. I don't disagree. I think Atalanta's got a seriously good chance of turning the boys with the bats on their shirts over.
I've seen Valencia. Nobody was saying Valencia will go through. They had to go to Amsterdam against Ajax, and they were still celebrating during the game against Real Madrid, and there was only one rival they wanted, and that was Atalanta, so they have it. Now they have to show that they deserve to be there.
Well, boom. It was a tasty UCL draw, and we have an even tastier Clasico coming up in 2 days. We've completely run out of time here, so we have to say goodbye, but just as a reminder to tune in to Magisterial tonight, followed by Weekend Winners, and then Monday Night Soccer with Georgie Metellus. Don't miss a minute of it. Say ciao, ciao, boys.
Ciao,
Adios,
ciao.
muchachos.
Hasta luego.